So I'm absolutely delighted now for us to be joined by two forces for nature in the youth climate and nature movement. This is Bella Lack and James Miller, who have both been really high profile over the last few years in pushing for further and faster action on tackling the climate and nature emergency. Bella and James, wonderful to see you both. You've both been here the last few days. Bella, first, how's it been? What have you made of it all?
The energy is incredible. I think in the last few days there have actually been pledges which give me some sense of optimism and some hope. And I think, as actually you said on the panel, the important time isn't just now, though, it's when we go home, and we won't be able to measure success from COP in the next few months or even in the next few years. It's going to be in, for example, a decade when we look back and say, okay, that was how many emissions we produced every day or every year, and that was how much deforestation we caused annually, and we'll see the difference and recognise how far we've come. And I think we won't be able to say now, and I can't say whether it's a success, but I can say that there's been a bit of progress. We need a lot more to get to 1.5 and to protect the planet, but we're moving in the right direction.
Okay, absolutely. And James, what about you? You presume it's your first COP, is it? Yeah, I guess so. And what have you made of it all?
Yeah, well, it's been hugely exciting, firstly, because there are so many people from all around the world who care about exactly the same stuff that we do. And actually, one of the main things I was looking forward to about coming here was meeting young people from every corner of the planet who are doing such amazing things. In terms of the actual political negotiations, I think I agree with Bella. There has been huge cause for optimism in some of the increases in ambition for the NDCs, for example, that we've seen. It's not nearly enough, though, given the turning point that we should have had at COP26 this year. But I am optimistic that it's built some momentum that if we go about it in the right way in the next few years, we can build upon.
Pledges so far, and good to get those pledges, but of course they've got to be delivered to make a real difference, and we've got to hold governments to account to follow through on those pledges, and that is absolutely done through that grassroots pressure and protest on the streets. On Saturday, both of you joined that amazing demonstration, 150,000 people on the streets of Glasgow. Again, youth movement, absolutely the heart and leading that demonstration. How did that feel for you emotionally? What was it like to be on the streets on Saturday?
Well, I think for me, being in the conference feels kind of like tiptoeing around the edges slightly. And I think the people at the march recognise that we're sort of on a train right now going towards a mountain. We're hurtling towards a mountain. And the pledges which are being made, they give me optimism, but they're not enough, and they're slowing the train down. And the people at the march recognise that actually we need to change trains because we're going towards the mountain.
And James, what did you make of that amazing demonstration on Saturday?
I loved it. I don't think a person who would naturally enjoy marches. I'm quite quiet, don't really like shouting. I haven't shouted in years. But I had a series of really late nights and really early mornings in the first few days of COP. And that march got me so energized and so woken up. And I was marching alongside people from Japan, from Ghana, from all over the world, all who shared exactly the same vision for the future and the same passions as me. And it was just incredible. Okay,
so final question for me to you both. If you could get Boris Johnson, sit him down right now and say to him one thing, what would you really want to impress on him? What needs to be done now to tackle the climate and nature crisis? Bella?
It's about the flow of money, it's about investment, and I think the most important thing for me, because I don't think it's being spoken about enough in the dialogue, is investing in nature-based solutions. Because the UK, we're 189th out of 218 in the State of Nature report, so we're speaking a lot about nature in other countries, and we live in, I'm going to call it an ecological wasteland. We live, the Scottish Highlands, for example, as you saw, they're just devoid of life, and I think what the UK needs to do to fulfil our pledge and reach 1.5 is invest in nature, to rewild our uplands, and to actually create a country where we value nature and where we don't see monoculture, which is essentially what most of our countryside as nature, because that's not.
Okay, brilliant. Well, I'm sure Boris Johnson is watching all of these Wildlife Trust Daily updates from COP26, so I'm sure he would have heard you there, Bella. James, what do you want to say to Boris Johnson?
Pull out all the stops, and actions speak louder than words. I think that there's a potential issue in the last year in that Boris has been very vocal about what he's going to do at COP, about all these pledges that he's made, but there's still a huge degree of perceived hypocrisy And that's not just speaking as a young person. I think what's really damaging is the effect that that may have had on countries around the world, and in what's going on here at COP26. I think you've got to realise now that now is the moment when we need to do everything we can, pull every lever, and that the young people will provide a mandate to the politicians that do that. We will make sure that that's not punished, but it's rewarded in voters.
Brilliant. Well, I just want to say, young people around the world over the last 2-3 years have just given me huge inspiration. I think what we've seen from your generation the last 2-3 years is you've displayed a much more mature response to the climate and nature emergency than the vast majority of grown-ups. So for me, thank you very much for everything you're doing. Thank you.